Good evening, the Board of Selectmen's meeting, Monday, August 24th. Chief, would you like to start us with the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A moment of silence, please. Thank you. Could I have a motion to approve Monday, August 10th?
Second. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
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 On public comment, I have Phyllis Manice Littlefoot. If you'd like to come up, you can either stand at that mic or stand at the podium, whichever is more comfortable for you.
All right.
She got...
Okay. Is it on?
Mm-hmm.
I can't hear it. Is it on?
It's for the home TV.
What?
It's for the TV at home.
It won't
People-
sound like it's on, but it's
People
it's on.
watching it at home.
My name is Phyllis Manise Littleford, and I have a piece of property which is about 25 acres more or less here in Mashpee, a taxpayer for many years, and I am interested in offering this property to the town of Mashpee. I understand that my proposal, which I submitted on Friday, was too late to get on today's agenda, but I would like to consider it for your next Board of Selectmen meeting. It's a piece of property that I think is wonderful, can be used for recreation, open space, or conservation. So I hope you take that into consideration at your next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good job.
Chief Rulo, do you want to come up and show us our new equipment?
Where you want to put it?
Andy will put it in his back and demonstrate.
Demonstrate.
I don't know if it'll be seen if I put it down here.
Right here.
It'll stand on its own. Yeah.
So next week we're going to put these air packs in service. They're going to replace the existing air packs. We got a grant that paid for most of these air packs. Originally, and I put in a grant to replace them all, but that I wasn't awarded that full grant. But we were awarded $142,000. So we used $60,000 in a CIP, which we asked for last year. I'm sorry, this May. So we asked for that additional money, which will complete the 29 air packs that'll outfit the department. It also comes with spare bottles. And so what this is going to do is this offers several more safety features, and this is the one of the newest, hottest ticket items. So it's going to increase our air tank volume from 30 minutes to 45. It has a sealed regulator. The old air packs did not have a sealed regulator when I got here, which was of a great concern to me, because the sealed regulator is supposed to help protect against chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear agents. So I think to protect, the Mashpee firefighters as best we can, these air packs are going to take care of that. It has an improved mask that's sitting in front of the chief there. A lot of design went into that mask. They've had a lot of issues with that over the last 20 years. So that's a brand new and improved mask. It has a fifth strap, so it can't come off the firefighter's head, or it won't come off the firefighter's head so easily. And then it has a face piece that obviously it won't melt. They've been having problems with them melting due to high heat. This is a brand new type of plastic, is what I'm told, developed specifically for that face piece. And there's a low air alarm that comes on at 33% And if any of you are divers, you know how you'd have an alarm, you'd have some way of knowing. This goes off at 33%, which gives the firefighters more time to exit the building safely. So I think pretty good job overall that we got the existing air packs. These air packs are set up exactly the same as the existing air packs, so it's a matter of the new features that I talked about for the firefighters, and it's a pretty simple retrofit.
Very good.
Questions?
How many of these packs do we have?
29.
29 masks, complete.
Well, the mask is, we have many more masks because we have to have so many different sizes, and so we'll have a lot more masks, and we have more bottles so that we have enough spares. Pretty much enough spares so we can put people in 2 or 3 times.
Good.
What's the expected lifespan of these?
10 years.
Wow.
The last air packs were on their 9th year, which technically I shouldn't have gotten a grant for an air pack that was still under 10 years. I heard that Wellfleet got brand new packs, and their packs are like 18 years old. So 10 years. And we also got a trade from the company that also helped us with the other air packs because they were in such good shape. So
Who's the grant from?
it's an AFG. It's an Assistance to Firefighters grant.
But who's the funder? Who's money
Homeland
is it?
Security.
Okay.
Good. Very good.
Good job on that, Chief.
Yeah.
Very nice. Is there anything else that we need desperately, or we should be looking at?
Desperately, no. We're working on everything, especially with the new town manager.
Old business. I take it we all have it. The Mashpee Host Community Agreement between Medical Marijuana Massachusetts, Inc. and the town of Mashpee, who we had in last meeting, and we asked for a couple of changes, one of which we wanted some more money in the second year. If you look at your contract, they've gone from $20,000 to $40,000. The other thing is we wanted the wording put into it that they would not be storing marijuana on the thing. And I don't, is that in there?
Yeah, they have been added an appendix that.
Okay.
At the end.
Does anyone else have any more questions after looking at it, or should I entertain a vote?
I have one question. What if you're not approved in the Plymouth for the grow? Does that affect this facility?
Good evening, members of the board. Mark
How are
Gilbert.
you doing, Mark?
If they don't get approval to grow in Plymouth, does that affect this facility?
Well, the agreement that's before you is basically a tri-town agreement. So if we did not get approved in Plymouth, we would have to come back and speak with you again. That's going to be our grow facility.
You wouldn't have the product to supply down here anyway, so.
Okay.
So that means that this contract would no longer be in force, or any host agreement that we have, not a contract, but a host agreement, would no longer be in force?
Correct. We would have to come back and speak with the board again and indicate we have another grow facility and provide an amendment because it's centered on having 3 towns as a part of the agreement.
And issue another agreement, this would become null and void, this agreement, if you weren't able to get the space in. My concern is, when I hear that, is that if you were not able to get the facility in Plymouth, it may take some time before you'd be up and running here, because now you'd have to go out and find another place to grow your product.
That's correct.
And that would prohibit the town from, having a facility here and receiving benefits of having that facility here.
Okay, but I would suggest to you that we're at the same position we are in Mashpee as we are in Plymouth. So we're going along on parallel ground.
Right, but Plymouth is the more important of the two.
Well, you can't sell it if you can't grow it, so that's
There are escape clauses.
Wait a minute, you just said this was a tri-party agreement. This is an exclusive agreement between the town of Mashpee and your client, and there's no mention in here of contingency on, and we're not a party to an agreement with the town of Plymouth.
I didn't say it's a tri-town agreement. I said there's 3 towns involved under the charitable foundation.
I don't care about the charitable foundation so much because that's speculative. In terms of the operation and the host agreement and the payments to the town of Mashpee, there's no provision in here that says if you don't get what you plan on getting in Plymouth, that you can get out of your obligation to us.
Well, we're only going to be obligated if we open up. We're not going to open up if we don't have a facility in Plymouth that's going to produce the product. And when I suggested the 3 towns, it's simply with respect to the charitable foundation. That's the basis of the additional payments to the community.
Okay, but your host, based on MMM receiving a final certificate of registration to operate in Mashpee during the term of this agreement, you shall make the following host donations as followed. And you're only out in this, as I read it, this is the entire agreement, and you may terminate this agreement for 3 reasons, none of which has anything to do with the town of Plymouth. So if we execute this agreement, unless you choose to declare bankruptcy, you're on the hook to us to pay that money, whether you get an agreement in Plymouth or not. Am I wrong?
I understood the question. If we don't get Plymouth, are we going to come back and speak with you? Certainly we're going to come back and speak with you and change the issues relative to the charitable foundation. If we get issued our certificate, we're going to be obligated under the agreement to make the payments.
Yeah.
This certificate,
Yes,
not the Plymouth certificate.
this certificate.
Yeah, I didn't think anybody was talking about the charitable foundation, because the
No.
charitable foundation
No,
was-
no,
was
no.
clearly speculative, and there was no obligation to fund it 1 penny. But you are, from the time we execute this agreement, and we fulfill our obligation and give you the right, the certificate to operate, you're bound to us unless you come in and seek to negotiate, which we wouldn't be compelled to do.
I agree with that.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
I make a motion, we approve the host agreement as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Andrew? Yes.
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 Thank you.
Discussion status of town engineer position.
I would just like to bring to the board's attention that recently the town engineer's position was posted, it was advertised, and I want to clear up any confusion, because I think that there was the thought that this was going to be a number 2 within that department. In speaking with the Director of Public Works, that was not her position as far as the posting. In other words, this engineer was going to be essentially equivalent to the position at highways or buildings and grounds, and essentially at the foreman or supervisory level, and not at the management number 2 level. I've had an ongoing discussion with the Director of Public Works relative to this position. It is my belief that we may very well need a number 2 in that department, specifically in case of the absence of the director, particularly in the winter months. There is a specific number 2 designated that would fulfill that capacity and those responsibilities. Without getting into too much of the operational stuff, I would bring to the board the importance to get it right rather than rush it. So I would just ask for a little bit more time to deliberate with the Director of Public Works for the purposes of potentially modifying this job description, and potentially even going so far as to re-advertising.
I agree with that.
This town engineer's position, it's kind of, this was not done this time like ordinarily would be, where it would be put on as a new position. It was evidently originally put into our reorganization that was voted a number of years ago and then never funded or filled. So we've had no discussion as to just what the town engineer's position is, what he's doing. I had some questions myself, which we won't, well, go into, such as, does this engineer now represent the town in public hearings and our regulatory boards, or do we still hire an outside engineer, things like that, so.
Ironically, some of your questions are some of my questions.
Okay, that's why I
And
have
the
questions.
other thing is, this is not going to steer us away from having an engineer for like a project at 151 or something of that nature. So, there's a lot more to this.
Right.
I would just like to
I'm very
have a
happy
little
that,
time.
I'm very happy that, because there was a question in my own
I mean, I
mind.
can give you a little first-hand background on it. The engineer position, you're right, it wasn't, when we funded it in
Yes.
this town meeting, we didn't have to create it. We created it, and I actually sponsored it back in 1988.
Okay, I knew it was,
We created the position, we offered it to somebody, he looked at the town and said, I don't think so. Went to Falmouth, stayed there for 30 years, just retired. Good guy, it's too bad we missed out on him. And the position had sat unfilled and unfunded since then. And, obviously, I know Tom's the liaison, so defer to his judgment on this. I know that we, when we talked about it, at least when I had conversations with Joyce prior in the development of the budget, I viewed it very much the way that Rodney's describing it, as yes, somebody who had an engineering background, who could look at plans and specs and maybe fulfill a regulatory role, but was clearly the number two in command in the Department of Public Works.
I thought I saw it written as the.
That's how we talked about it at the
well,
time.
where it had already been, the position had already been created, I didn't realize it was that long ago, is we had no discussion in it at all. If it was a new position, they'd have to come to us and would have to okay the new position. That's when you get into it. That's why we had none.
I think during the course of the budget process, at least there was some discussion about it having that deputy
Well,
department head
that's how I understood it as
function.
well.
Yes, I
I
did
think we all
too.
saw that there was
From
a
a
need.
town meeting perspective,
There was a need. I don't know how you feel, again, it's your department, I don't know how you feel about it.
but I totally agree with putting, back in your hands and doing it right.
Yeah,
I even question the need of an engineer, but if the number two man happens to be an engineer, I'm fine with that. But I don't know that we need specifically an engineer. We have a consulting engineer for years who's done a fine job.
And that's why I don't want to rush this. And I'm not saying we're rushing in the sense that it's been years since we've had an engineer, but by the same token, we did have an assistant director. That's what the current director was under the former director. So, anyway.
just to throw one more thing is, our former director was an engineer.
Okay.
Just
So,
one more thing.
Mr.
That's-
Taylor,
And he got paid for both.
yes.
It's not a bad thing to have a
No.
certified engineer in a
Number two,
public works,
right.
somewhere in the department.
And I'm not suggesting it's a bad thing to have an engineer, but what I am suggesting, it's more important to have a number two. That's all I'm saying.
I would agree with that.
So if you could just give me a little bit more
That's
time
fine.
and patience, then we'll continue this process, and we may actually revise the job description.
That's fine.
Sounds good.
Absolutely.
My only caution would be, let's have somebody on board and then with a firm grasp of the chain of command before it starts to snow. Seriously.
I'm going to try to move faster than that.
That's a good
It
goal.
all depends upon how fast the snow moves.
Okay.
All right, our next thing is if Chief Rulo will come up here. I understand we have an award to give that we should all be very proud of as a town.
Where would you like him to stand?
Why don't you go over the podium that way?
So, yes, I'd like to introduce one of your newest firefighters, Matt Spears. Matt just graduated from the Massachusetts Firefighting Academy, and I'm not sure, when he graduates, the chief goes up there and hands him his paperwork, but they bring this award out, and of course I wasn't there this time, it was the deputy, Jack Phelan was there. So it's totally, he has no idea that he's won this award. So this is the Richard N. Banks Outstanding Recruit Award for demonstrating outstanding commitment and excellence, and is presented by the Massachusetts Fire Training Council. In other words, the people who vote for this are all the instructors. So Matt's the one, they gave him the award there, but I thought you should celebrate it here, because we don't know when the last time one of our firefighters got this award, so.
Congratulations.
Here's your.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Well done.
Yes, very well done.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Special events application, Cape Cod Run for Addiction, September 26th. Do we have a representative here? Oh, okay, there he is. Those who don't know that's watching on TV, Chris Santos is one of our school committee members also.
Thanks, and good evening, everybody. It's good to be at one of the selectmen's meetings. But a little background on what this whole thing is and where it came from. A couple months ago, given the the opiate and heroin addiction crisis that we have going on here in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and all across the country, I decided to start an initiative to try to raise awareness and fight the cause. And in that event, I created a Facebook page and got quite a bit of followers and started doing some other networking and events. And the idea came to me to why not do a relay across Cape Cod. And this relay will consist of 15 flags that will have the logo that was created for the event. It's a Stop the Madness logo that was created by my brother. And it'll be on purple flags that will start in Bourne. The relay teams will be individual towns. So each town will have their own relay team that register on the site that's provided. And that town will plant the flag at their given town hall and then relay the rest of the flags to the town line of the next town and pass the flags off to that town's relay team. And then they'll in turn do the same thing. So Bourne will get it over to Sandwich. Sandwich will plant it at their town hall and run it to the base. The base is also involved. I work on Otis, so I was able to pull some strings there and make some connections. So then it'll go through Falmouth, and Falmouth in turn will give it to where Mashpee takes over, which brings me here. Mashpee will take over on Old Barnstable Road a little bit before the high school. It's about a 6-mile jaunt that'll take them down Old Barnstable, right down here to the town hall. They'll plant the flag at the town hall and continue on the bike path up 130 to 28, where they'll hand off to the Barnstable relay team. What I need permission for is, well, first of all, I needed to let everybody know what was going on, but because there's a flag being planted on town grounds, as well as there's a couple vendors that volunteer to give out things for the participants. Polar Cave's going to be involved, scooping ice cream, as well as Pizza Guys is going to provide pizza for registered participants. There'll be no selling of any kind, anything going on here. And there'll also be a 3x4 sign with the event name on it, letting everybody know what's going on. It is an awareness event, so it's about driving awareness. I am working with, because myself and my cause is not a nonprofit, I do have a partnership with a nonprofit out of Eastham called the Open Doorways of Cape Cod. So they're basically handling all any funds that are collected. They're going to pay for all of the items that I need to make this run happen, and then any residual funds are going to be kept by that organization to fund their project, which is to actually help people with rehab and help people get the treatments that they need, where I focus more on the awareness piece. So that's where the event application comes into play, and needing the approval from the town to make this event happen.
Chris, I got a couple of questions that are just normal. These vendors, where are you planning on having them?
Wherever.
Well, what I'm saying is I didn't know if you want them at the town hall and back or across the community park.
Honestly, whatever's more convenient for the town. Because
I don't think it makes any difference to either one of us, but just so once you does the permit.
Probably, I would say the town hall, because one, it's going to be on a Saturday. So
Okay.
I forgot to mention, it is September 26th.
Yeah.
and 27th, but Chatham is going to be 27th, Chatham onto Provincetown. So it is going to be a Saturday, so Town Hall will be closed. There's more on that I'm trying to get information on, but with them going up Route 130, it would be easier for anybody that's not going to make the whole run, because it's going to be broken up. About 20 people are going to kind of relay it through town, so it'll be groups of about 5 people that'll hand it off to 5 more people and run a mile or 2, hand it off to 5 more people. So rather than having people coming across 130 or coming across the road, if we kept it on this side where they're going to be using the bike path, they'll still stay on this side.
Along with that second question, have you talked it over with the police department at all?
Yep, well, the application, I had to route it through the police
Okay,
department,
that's
fire
all right,
department, Board of Health, everybody, so that's already been routed.
That's the only questions I have that are on just formal.
And because, like I said, it's going to be small pockets of people, maybe 5 or so.
Yeah.
The police department, and actually no town as of yet has required us to use details, because it's such a small group.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're going to be going across, say, 151 when they cross from, across to Old Barnstable, they can just hit the button and wait. Yeah. It's not a race, it's not a 5K, nobody's being timed, so that group can wait. And cross across.
I think it's a great idea.
really
I've
is.
told you myself already.
Good, really is, Chris.
Could I have a motion to issue the events, special events?
Second?
All those in favor? John?
Yes.
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 Thank you
Good
very
luck.
And
much.
anything we can do for you?
Well, that was going to be my last thing real quick, is I invite, anybody to come out. I'd love to get, I'm telling every town this, stood in front of a lot of committees and a lot of people trying to get approvals and things. Anybody that wants to come out and get involved, all of them. If you can make it, I understand things get busy. I get busy. As a matter of fact, I just came here from a school event. So, if you can make it, great. Otherwise, I appreciate it.
Thank
Great
you.
idea.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Good job, Chris.
Terry,
Put me in, Chris.
next thing is a one-day liquor license to the Mashpee Kiwanis. Terry Cook, are you the president this year?
Yes.
President of the Mashpee Kiwanis.
Thanks. It's the same exact thing that we've done for the last few years. We partner with the Mashpee VFW and with the Special Events Committee to run the beer tent. It will be a closed-off area, as it has been in the past, and we'll be policing, making sure that people don't carry beer and wine outside of the tent and go through the grounds. Other than that, we haven't had any trouble that I know of, so I'm hoping that you'll grant us another one this year.
Any questions?
No. Make a motion, we approve the license as requested?
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor? Andy?
Yep.
Yes.
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 Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Terry.
Thanks for your continued good work.
The next item is very data made, certification hiring process of a patrol officer and then an animal control officer.
If I could, Mr. Chair.
Before.
And let's do these two first.
You want to do this first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which one?
The patrol officer
Patrol
and
first.
the animal.
5 and 6.
Okay, in terms of the patrol officer, we do have the interim chief here, soon-to-be chief, hopefully.
That's why I held off
But,
doing that one.
But as far as the patrol officer is concerned, he did go through the written exam, the physical agility exam, and the oral board examination, as well as the chief's interview. He did go through the psychological, the medical, and the background. All of that's been completed and consistent with the policies and procedures of our hiring practices for the position of entry-level police officer. He is qualified.
Where is he coming from?
You would have to ask that.
Well, it just said care of the Mashpee Police Department.
I believe he's from Barnstable.
He's from Barnstable. Okay.
I guessed right.
So we're doing the police officer and the animal control officer right now, right?
Okay, you want me to speak on the
Yep,
animal
go
control
ahead.
officer?
Yeah, then
The animal
we'll get him
control officer went through a similar but not as lengthy of a process. It wasn't as comprehensive because obviously the selection process for that position is a little different. But He did complete the psychological, the medical, the background, and the interview process, as well as an oral board panel. This is an individual who is on staff currently at DPW. This individual has dedicated many years of service to the town, lives in the town, and quite frankly is extremely excited about the opportunity to be animal control officer. He's extremely enthusiastic and ambitious to be assuming this role, and I think this is a case of hard work and hard effort paying off for somebody that deserves it.
That's great.
Great.
Can I have a motion for both of
I
them?
make a motion to certify the hiring process for the patrol officer and the animal control officer.
Second.
Second that motion.
All those in favor? John?
Yes.
Yes.
And
Yes.
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 And yes.
Can I ask the acting chief a question, though? I noticed you got a lot of applicants for both pools. Was it a large pool, or was it also a good pool? I mean, you drawing a lot of good applicants for these postings?
It seems to get better and better every year. We were very happy with the last round of candidates, and we still have a very solid list of what to choose from, so I'm very happy with it.
Okay, thank you.
It's my pleasure to ask for a nomination for our new police chief, Scott Carline.
So moved.
So moved and second.
And if I could, because obviously this is near and dear to my heart, I think it's fair to say that some towns or some cities sometimes look outside when they have an opportunity to promote or to appoint. And in this case, the decision and the recommendation was to promote. As I stated just a few minutes ago when I was talking about the animal control officer, this is where the effort, the dedication, the commitment to the community needs to pay off. And in this particular case, the qualifications of this individual, from education to training to experience, is unquestionable. To character, unquestionable. And we did have an oral board panel, which the police liaison, Selectman O'Hara, sat on for the sole purposes of getting that comfort zone, which, quite frankly, was already perceived. Perception quickly turned into reality when myself, a Cape Cod chief, and Selectman O'Hara sat there and watched Interim Chief Carline's poise, his response to questions, and his decision-making and his judgment, along with everything that's listed in your packet. So he comes highly recommended, strongly recommended, and it fills me with pride to be able to appoint him subject to the board's confirmation, which by charter you need to take a vote on.
And I, if you don't, I'll jump in.
I'd like each one do it as we vote.
Have a comment?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a motion on the board to make Scott Carline Chief of Police. John?
Yes.
Yes, and it's my pleasure to say that, where I did have the opportunity to sit on that all board. And I can tell you that he is so poised, so polished, so knowledgeable. I was so impressed by his presence and his knowledge. He's just a tremendous asset to the town of Mashpee. I'm so happy that he's in the town. And I mean that, Scott, and congratulations, you deserve this.
Yes, and congratulations.
Yes, and I was very happy that the town had such a win-win situation by promoting the chief of police to town manager, to have someone so good sitting in the wings waiting to take his place.
No arguments on promoting me.
I'll obviously vote yes. Congratulations, and look forward to it.
Great.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. You have to follow Rodney, he always gives a speech.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Say a few words anyway.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Congratulations.
One of the easiest yeses I've ever done.
Yeah, that's good. Yes.
Do you want to say a couple of words, Scott?
I wasn't prepared.
Just a couple of... May as well get you used to it.
I guess just.
This is the good one.
I'm very honored and humbled in your confidence. I look forward to the challenges that will be presented in the upcoming years, and I promise you I'll do my best. I will do what's right. I'm a person of integrity, and I will show you that.
And we know you will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
I'll see you tomorrow about a contract.
Tom, you want to come up?
Tiffany, read his.
Approval for a dog park signage at the intersection of 130 and Ashumet Road. Tom, do you want to come up and tell us just what kind of sign?
It's ours.
It's just DPW?
Yeah,
Just DPW? Oh, I saw you sitting here, I thought for sure it was you.
it's in the packet.
Oh,
Yeah, there is a demonstration or
I
an
see.
exhibit.
Yeah.
An exhibit.
Yeah.
So we just need to authorize putting it
Yeah, I just
on.
assumed, have you seen it?
I'll make a motion, we authorize the installation of the dog park sign at the intersection of 130 and Ashumet Road.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Yes.
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 Yep.
And proclamation for Suicide Prevention Week.
Do you want the clerk to read it in?
Do we want to read it or just vote to support it?
Just to publicize it, I'm happy to read it.
Go ahead.
Make a motion, we approve the following proclamation, Suicide Prevention Week. Whereas in the United States, one person dies by suicide every 12 minutes, and 112 people die by suicide each day in the U.S. And whereas suicide is the second leading cause of death for Massachusetts residents aged 15 to 34, and the suicide rate in the Cape and Islands is 1.4 times higher than the state average. And whereas suicide is a tragic and disruptive event for families and communities, it is estimated there are 5 million survivors who have lost a loved one to suicide. And whereas suicide is a public health issue, is a community problem, and through education and awareness of the issue, a great number of suicides can be prevented. Therefore, we, the Mashpee Board of Selectmen, do hereby proclaim the week of September 6th through 13th, 2015 as Suicide Prevention Week in the town of Mashpee.
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
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 I'm going to skip over the review of the draft warrant and get done with the last thing. Discussion of reorganization town departments pursuant to Section 4.2 of the Charter.
Yes. Recently, there has been some discussion relative to the Director at Human Services not being comfortable at her present location, primarily because she was up there alone. After having a discussion with her and having a discussion at the Human Services Committee meeting, which was last week, it was agreed that she would be relocated to Town Hall. As a result of that relocating, obviously that would lead to a building that would now be vacant. It is in that spirit that there is a plan to remove the current vacancy of the harbor master and the shellfish constable, which obviously is currently occupied, and move them up to that building and form a department under Natural Resources because of Rick York having a very comprehensive plan regarding nitrogen reduction with oysters. Rick is going to potentially need additional staff beyond his assistants. I believe, although I have said publicly and I've said privately that I am not an advocate of adding full-time personnel, in this particular case, it's somewhat unique. And it's unique because although we could potentially be adding personnel, short-term or long-term, there is no question that long-term you will save potentially millions of dollars with what Rick York has proposed. This is a plan that was previously endorsed by this board. Maybe not by everybody here, but it was previously endorsed by this board. So I am following that objective of the board, the previous board, and then in addition, I do believe in Rick York's plan to the extent that we want to make sure that he has the resources and that he has the adequate staff as well as space to do what he needs. I have consulted prior to this meeting with the Waterways Commission Chair and with the Shellfish Chair, both of who support this move, and I also made the Waterways Liaison aware. So that's where it's at. By charter, it is my position that I can move this, but I did not want to do it without bringing it to the board, making you fully aware of it, and asking whether or not you have any questions, comments, or concerns before it actually is implemented.
I don't have any problems with it.
I think it's an excellent
I
idea.
do too.
I do too.
We
How
had
many-
always wanted Mrs. Wilson to be back into town hall.
And I should also mention that I had a discussion with the chief, and he supports this, and he had no problems with it, and I apologize for leaving you out already, because technically, those folks are in his department. So...
So that gives him space.
What's that?
That gives him space.
That is true.
No, I think it's a good
So
idea.
I'm not asking for a vote, but I am giving you an opportunity to publicly ask any questions that you may have.
I think it's a good
Because otherwise, I'm just going to do it.
Right. No, it makes perfect
No,
sense.
it does make sense.
So, no
Win-win.
issues?
No issues. Oh, John?
No, I haven't done,
I don't either.
It's great.
All good?
Yeah.
Then I'm good.
Okay, review of the town warrant. How do we want to do this? Article by article, or?
Yeah, why don't we? We can do article. We got to start somewhere.
All right. I'll read them then. Article 1, to see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer from available funds $40,000 to the accrued benefits account or take any other action thereto. Any problems?
No, I assume this covers our contractual obligation
Right,
under
exactly, the
retirement.
retirement.
Article 2, to see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer from available funds an undetermined amount to the Human Resources Consulting account to take any other action thereto.
That's normal cleanup, yeah.
Yeah.
We're doing a
Do you want to
survey
vote?
of salaries.
Do you want
We
to
are.
vote?
No, we can't vote
No.
tonight.
No, we're not voting.
This is just review.
Okay.
3, to see if the town will vote to appropriate transfer available funds, $338,205 to the Information Technology Department capital account for the purpose of funding a digital records management system or take any other action thereto.
My only question about this, and I really like this project, the fact that we have a couple million paper records in the attic are useless. And I'm hoping, and I've talked to David about notion that if we can build into this the ability to assign some spatial recognition to the record, so that, for example, you can start to see on the system, when did a house have its septic system pumped out? How often? So all those records are on a piece of paper in the Board of Health. There's a lot of power here. I guess my question is, this has us buying the hardware, and I'm just wondering whether David costed out, contracting out to have somebody do it rather than buying the equipment, or whether, so my only question would be, does it make sense to own it, or does it make more sense to do it as a contract so that over time, it might end up being a little more expensive, but you don't get behind the curve on the hardware?
The only problem is if that needs an upgrade or changes, then you're on the hook for changing that yourself.
There's pros and cons to contracting outside.
And I'm not arguing your point.
You could argue it both ways. I guess before we finalize this, if we could just get a little bit of insight into IT's
I
view
think we should
about
have at least a figure so that when a person asks us the same thing, we can say.
Absolutely. I would want to ask specifically David DeVecchio, the director, that...
Well, that's what this is for.
If you could just get us back some information.
Absolutely.
And, if it could come in the form of a memo prior to our next meeting, that might suffice.
But for the purposes of retrieval and for the purposes of getting rid of some of the filing cabinets...
Oh, it's definitely...
I know that it's costly, but I do.
My question being, we're using available funds, where is this coming out of?
We got a lot of free cash. No.
Is that where we're looking at?
This is for discussion purposes.
Okay.
And...
that's another question, then. You don't have to, this is just questions that...
Okay.
So available funds would be the question. I have another question as far as, this was actually my industry that I came from for 15 years. So as far as are we going to be doing it ourselves as far as all the original, catching up on all the archives, scanning in?
So your question is one of staff time.
The cost-wise doesn't surprise me. In fact, I'm wondering why it's a little bit, I may think it might be a little bit low, to tell you the truth. But I guess if we're bringing in services or people to come in to, bring down all those boxes and catch us up, or are we archiving from here on? There's two different processes in play.
There is, and I'm not so sure that this is going back to the
I'll tell you
start
what,
of time.
probably the best thing is bringing Dave Delvecchio to the next meeting. A lot of these things, Chief, because you can't be expected to know this stuff.
But
they're pretty precise. He's got 1,731,989 records.
It's not like paper documents.
He did some work to figure this out.
Serious, I'd be happy to talk with him, about some of the process itself, but just some of the questions that I've seen talking with different companies.
I think we should throw John at this one.
And I know that this is one of the recommendations that his recent audit had suggested.
Yeah,
but there's a number of ways. That's...
Yep.
I know that myself.
But I think you're not hearing any concerns of getting out of paper record business.
To
run our operation.
Yeah.
Nobody's running an operation, a $56 million business on paper anymore.
Right.
This was being done in the past. There was an individual that was retired that was here part-time, and she was scanning the documents.
I think it was
It's going to
limited.
take a lot more than a part-time person.
But she was moving forward slowly. But
I've seen a lot of the process in this. What they do is once you implement the software, from that point on, you start to scan everything in. And then as time is made available,
You scan the
you
other.
start,
Right.
you find out whatever's the most critical documents and start to go after.
The other next part of this question would be, what plan does IT have so that once, whether we are archived and caught up, or whether we just say, we're starting today, what's their plan so that the critical documents that are transactional that the town uses go into some system going forward? You're going to retire soon, so you don't have to worry about putting your stuff in there. You like making all these faces.
These questions are all we got to ask them again anyway.
But
so why
Board of
take
Health,
the time?
when they, Board of Health, assessors, tax records, all that stuff that, where somebody sits there and enters in, it needs to go into some useful system so that we can retrieve and utilize the data for analytical purposes.
And there's also different systems. I don't know if are they looking at a barcode system?
Let's wait
Or
till
are they
Dave
looking
comes, because he's the one that has the expertise on it, and he can tell us which one he's looking at.
Okay.
But I think the message is we want to proceed with something. It's just, what are we biting off and what's next?
And to have David Delvecchio here.
Yeah.
Right.
To see if the town will vote to appropriate $60,000 Kids Club Enterprise Fund capital expense account for the purpose of capital improvement expenses associated with the enterprise, and so fund said appropriation from the retained earnings of the enterprise, or take any other action thereof. That's every year you have it. Yeah. Article 5, to see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer from available funds $100,000 to the Sewer Commission Facility Study account, and to reauthorize said account to fund the preparation of feasibility study primarily designed regarding the connection of various properties, including Town Hall, Quashnet School, Coombs School, neighboring properties, existing Mashpee Commons, Mashpee Village, wastewater treatment plans, and take any action over there too. Tom, that's what you're here for, to explain to us what you need.
Mr. Fidel is here for all the sewer commission questions.
Yeah, I spoke to the chief this afternoon. I did get a bit of more explanation about what would be involved in the feasibility study. I just want to hand out what I got from our engineer, if I could.
Thanks, Tom.
My question, Tom, is why do we need to do a feasibility study when we have a plan that's going to be implemented if it's...
This is what's called for in the first steps of the plan.
Whose plan is that?
The town's comprehensive wastewater management plan that we submitted. It got state approval a couple weeks ago, and it's just pending commission.
First step is feasibility study.
I happened to listen to this June 18th meeting that you had. And at the time, figures were floating around like, well, we don't know. And this engineer was saying, I can't tell until we know this or that. And all of a sudden, figures just came up, well, let's get $100,000 for that.
These were
do we have reasons now?
Best approximation of what it would cost. I mean, obviously, you don't have an RFP out there. You don't have any bids back or anything like that. You don't have a detailed program because you don't even know if you're going to have the money. So this was his best estimate as to this particular project, the $100,000.
Well, all these figures, he didn't even want to give them.
As far as I'm concerned, as it always is, that's a max. I mean, that's just what we have available, and we make the best deal we can on the work.
But is this something that we have to do now? Put the money aside now? It can't wait until we see if our plan is approved?
Well, I think we're pretty certain our plan is going to be approved. I mean, it's moving right along. The commission will probably be having their DRI hearing in the middle of September, and that also relates to one of the other articles, but it's not going to get rejected for sure.
I mean, the Secretary of Environmental Energy Environment signed off on the plan 4 weeks ago.
So then let me ask you this, Tom. If this has to have been part of your plan, was tying this connection.
Yeah,
these connections.
It's
so
a plan.
How is this still at the feasibility stage and not in the planning stage, the engineering?
Engineering feasibility. And if you look through it, it relates to the capacity of the wastewater treatment plants to do
Which
what
is
the
engineering.
projected flows are going to do. Well, yes, the engineers call this a feasibility study, but it is by the engineers.
I mean, it's kind of the term of art for the engineering profession. But basically what you're doing is you've got a plan that has sort of a high level, we're going to look at, town facilities and stuff around here. We're going to look at, the schools, and we're going to look at tying them into, and that portion of the load is going to go to Mashpee Commons and potentially the tribal facility down Meeting House Road. Nobody's done any design engineering to look at, elevations and pipes and pumps. This is what that does. So it's a preliminary engineering plan. I wouldn't get caught.
Engineering, not feasibility.
Well, but when you go through the arcane world of getting wastewater permits, there are these, steps that have been in existence since the early 70s under the federal rules about, you do this kind, you do this initial design and engineering, and it's called the feasibility study, and then you go to 20% design and 80% design. So it's a stupid term.
But you know that the engineering firm has been working with the sewer commission for years, the same engineer. They presented the plan to the state, and it's been approved.
Right.
So the feasibility issue should no longer exist. It should be an engineering, put a shovel in the ground, you put your pump at this station.
The way you're thinking about it is right. So what this would be funding the initial design steps to determine what is required to move wastewater from here, there, and everywhere to some particular destination. And this article contemplates 2 specific destinations of Mashpee
So
Common.
if you're telling me it's less on the feasibility, but the actual
It's beginning the design. It's beginning the design and engineering process.
Where the pumps are going to be placed.
Yes, it's the initial work to do that.
I have less of a problem there. The feasibility.
No, it's not saying like, hey, would this be a good idea?
Right.
It's-
Well, that's the
what I
way
mean.
it's.
It sounds like we're going backwards.
No, you're not. It's just a stupid term of art that the engineering world uses because they have to go to get their permits and say.
When I hear it, it's like, well, let's do the feasibility again, and then let's have them come in and.
No, you're not paying for the same thinking you already paid for.
Right. Well, that's what I don't.
Yeah, I think that was your concern.
Yes, that's true.
You have to understand, the plan is a plan. It says, we should do this, but it doesn't say how we should do this. And it's the first step, though. It's how we should do this. Now, if you want to think of it that way, right now the plan is a picture. It's not a detailed drawing.
Right, and that's then it's like
step towards
Andrew said, it becomes it's the engineering plan, not the feasibility of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, the capacity.
It's not conceptual. It's how do you actually do it?
Then we should take that feasibility word.
Well, no, you should leave it because you need it. It means something to the regulators.
Oh, I know, but it's confusing too.
Well, in the explanation, it's feasible study and preliminary designs regarding it's in the explanation.
You're going to get asked the same question at town meeting, because if I was there, I'd be asked.
I would too.
All right, let me.
It's $100,000.
The same answer, and again, this is engineering stuff. I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert at all this stuff, but one of the things that's involved is neither of these plants was actually reviewed as part of our planning process because they didn't exist at the time we did that phase of the planning. The Mashpee Commons has totally rebuilt their plant from what it was that we saw when we did our comprehensive plan, so we have to take another look at the plant to see the capacity.
Let me go back and work with the sewer commission and see if we can change the wording of the description and not create another problem for ourselves on the back end. But I hear what you guys are saying.
In both plans were built to increase capacity for this sole purpose,
So
to
you
take
have more
on some of our town waste.
Well,
And also,
built for
if
that,
I could,
they may have the capacity.
once you give this the thumbs up or thumbs down,
Well, there's
it's all
going to be
going
no vote tonight
No vote.
anyway.
No, I understand that, not tonight, but ultimately, what I'm saying is it's all going to go through town council first anyway.
Oh, yeah, but that's, I'm talking
But
about.
I think I understand what
You're
was causing
talking
you guys
about-
concern.
I got news for you. We have so many studies upstairs collecting dust for $50,000, $60,000. The minute the town meeting hears study,
Right.
they're going, oh, not another one.
And this one's 100,000, so I mean, buzzers are going to go on.
50,000 apiece.
I hear what you're saying. Let's go back and work on the
Yeah,
language.
yeah.
On the language.
I'm, PR-wise, I'm thinking more
Right.
than anything else.
But really what we're talking about is beginning to implement.
Right.
The
It's the
plan.
engineering
And
stage.
that's a big part of it.
It's all of it.
We're going to do
That's
the.
really what it's about. This is not, we're in doing phase, not planning phase.
Fine. What size pipe? Where is
Yeah.
the pump going to be?
Yeah.
What elevation?
And what has to happen at the treatment plant in order to make it all work.
But that makes a difference.
I understand.
Yes,
I
I
understand.
know.
Language is important, so we'll fix it.
Scaled implementation
And just,
plan.
don't forget, there's an
Tom, we're good.
explanation in here that says.
Stop
this is what
talking.
project- Initial steps, just what you're saying, the initial steps in implementing the plan is right in the explanation right now.
Right, but they're talking about the article.
Yeah.
We'll work on it.
I would actually ask to look at the $100,000 number two. It just, perception-wise,
It's a lot of money.
it's a lot of money, and
The
it's just,
engineer had no idea what
it
to
looks like it's
say.
just a stab, oh, let's
It
call it
was.
Well,
100,000.
that's what
It
they
was.
did. If you watch,
Make it a round number.
No, it was a stab.
I couldn't pinpoint.
It's
We'll
looked
borrow from David's number. We'll make it $1,731,989.
No.
At this
John,
point,
they're
that's the
estimates.
best they could do.
I get you, but you already got a couple estimates, you've already got a couple ranges, this to that.
I got it.
Pick a
I got it.
better range.
I got it.
Let's see the town appropriate transfer available funds, $100,000, so this is the one I just read?
No,
No,
number 6
6.
we want.
To see if the town will vote appropriate transfer available funds, $50,000 for various consulting services regarding the negotiation establishment of an interior municipal agreement with Falmouth Sandwich and Barnstable regarding the shared responsibility for nitrogen changes in Wacoit and Pompanesett Bays under County's 208 plan, and the negotiation and establishment of memorandums of understanding and contracts of use, acquisition of, in the connection of additional properties to existing private wastewater treatment plants or take any other action. How many times are we going to fund getting Falmouth and Sandwich and,
We've never funded that.
well, when I say fund, the county's funded it. The pilot program.
The pilot project was an EPA-funded study to,
What's the one that he came to us from, and I think it was out of your thing?
Yep.
Right.
Where we were hiring a guy and he was going to do all this.
well, and that was, the county was going to do that with Sandwich, Barnstable.
The
and
product of that
South
agreement
Pompanesett, and
was a
finished.
framework for allocating load between the towns that is the basis for the town's plan. The political exercise of getting town of Mashpee, Board of Selectmen, the town of Barnstable, town council, and the town of Sandwich, Board of Selectmen, to actually sign it and be legally bound to one another to control their portion of the load, that political part of the agreement never took place.
And we're going to pay $50,000
We're
to
going to need
get
some
it?
help to.
It's primarily legal and some engineering.
Yeah, I mean, you could pay for a chunk of this out of your legal and engineering budget, because some of it's going to be legal help. I will say, in the time between when that original pilot project was done, it was initially funded by EPA.
Right.
I picked it up through county to bring it to another stopping point where it got to the point where it didn't get it adopted by the communities. A lot of the work that's been done at the county level on the 208 plan has focused on the methods of getting towns, what form town agreements should take, and there's a slightly different method for allocating the nitrogen in the county plan than the town's plan. The town's plan can proceed without the county plan at all. It's fine to do it that way. It's going to take a little bit of directed help. So, there's a couple of different ways to fund it.
Here's my problem.
This was an attempt to be honest and not bury the cost of coming to the agreement, and to say.
It would have felt better.
We're just,
I got news here. It just bothers me that we're paying $50,000 to make Falmouth Sandwich and Barnstable do the right thing.
Well,
they're gonna have to pay in their end, too.
Commission.
Do they have articles in front of them now
There was,
looking
I
for
remember, the
money?
watershed. there was
The
whole
commission
thing,
will, the
combined
commission will work
watersheds.
with the towns. Yes, there is technical assistance available from the commission to work with the towns.
now
At
is
the-
Falmouth Sandwich and Barnstable paying anything?
Well, that question was over.
The bottom line is, this is for us to do our end of the deal, to make sure we're getting a good deal.
To make sure that
Make sure they're,
So we're
if they
paying
want
for
to, if
them.
they want to.
No, we're not paying for them.
To
I
do
think
that,
what we're paying for,
Our side of the negotiation.
what we're paying for, and what we'll come back and talk to you guys about on another night when we don't have this in front of us, but, an approach, is coming up with operationalizing our plan that we've endorsed, the state has endorsed, and the county will soon endorse. And in that, we have to rely on certain actions by Falmouth to get Wacoit back to snuff.
Correct.
And we have to rely,
Yeah.
And so we're working on and I have an approach that I'm going to be talking to Tom and the Sewer Commission about shortly, about coming up with a permitting approach to the state that has Mashpee being able to go in and say, these are the terms that work for us. And having the state, through its permitting process, either force our adjoining communities to the table, create the environment necessary political environment to get the town managers and some of our adjoining towns to pick up the phone and call him and say, we need to come up with a real solution to this problem. Or having a permit that the state issues that just says, you guys, you other towns, we approve of what Mashpee did, and that leaves you with A, B, and C to do in your communities, and here's the permit that requires you to do it. And we'll need, again, these are estimates. We will need some technical help to walk through that process. We could do it, John, out of legal and engineering. I don't know, I don't know what the other demands on that account are going to be over the course of the year. I would say that
it just seems that's a $50,000. That's really, I haven't heard an explanation yet.
I agree with you. And you mean to tell me that you would think that the state would approve a plan from Sandwich, Falmouth, that would not take care of the nitrogen loading of our Mashpee, Wakeby, Johns Pond?
I'm saying that the towns around us are behind us. And so what I think we need to provide the taxpayers of Mashpee is some assurance that we're not waiting. We're going to start putting things not things in the ground, we're going to put things in the water. We're going to put shellfish in the water to start. We're going to start spending money because we want to see our side of the bay improve sooner rather than later. So what I'm saying is that we need to find some way to force, either come to an agreement on timing for our adjoining communities, or work with the state to have them drive the agenda to impose timing that's more like ours on them. If you're Falmouth has 15 embayments. All right, it has almost a third of the embayments that exist on Cape Cod. Their plan right now is that they're investing money in 2 of the 15, and they're not planning on spending any more money beyond what that cost them for any other embayment in town, including the one we share with them, until I believe 2021 or 25. Because of the way they sought to fund their...
So you think this $50,000 is going to force them to...
I think that we are going to get a permit. I think we will pursue a permit that will change the course of the discussion in our neighboring communities and put them on the hook to do things that accelerate what they need. It will change the prioritization. Right now, Wacoit Bay gets dealt with in the Falmouth plan in 30 years.
Right. And they have they control most of that bay as far as...
They control a decent chunk of it. We can control the ponds and the rivers.
The Great River,
but the main body of the bay doesn't get better regardless of what we do until they get their act together.
Right.
To my mind, that's unacceptable. I don't feel like, maybe I'll be around 30 years, maybe I won't. But I think that's too long a time period to wait.
I'd be surprised if the state closed their eyes to that and not to help to take care of this sooner rather than later.
And I think that our strategy is to try to put our needs at the forefront of that discussion. And whether we get this money in this article or not, that's what I think our strategy is going to be over the course of the next year.
All we have to do is show up and voice strongly.
We're throwing our money. I have a hard time seeing that.
So what I'm hearing is, can I try, in the interest of time, what I think I'm hearing for words and body language is okay with the strategy. If there's another way that we can seek to fund it without going to town meeting for an extra 50, that's your preference? I'm not trying to put words in people's mouths. I'm just trying to get a sense of where your comfort level is.
I don't want to even say one way or the other right now. I want to sit down and think about this.
I think we need more discussion.
And I would be careful.
We have a couple weeks.
I would be careful on the legal engineering, only because
I don't like that idea at all.
But the independent studies are going to be.
I don't like the idea at all of it going to the league. This should all be separated out because it's going to be a lot of money coming out from a lot of. This is nothing.
That's a long time down the road.
Yeah, but this is
10
nothing.
years before we're going to see anything happening here.
Yeah, that's why. Well, all right.
All right, let's talk more about it between now and the 9th.
Can I just interject something? There is a second part of this that you're not talking about, is the MOUs with the private plants that don't involve the other towns. We have to get into legal agreements with Mashpee Commons, New Seabury, Willow Bend, and a few other private plants, including the Wampanoags, where we want to use their facility or we may take over their facility. That's part of what this is about, too, negotiating those MOUs, separate from the intermunicipal agreements with the other towns. So they're both in this package. And that doesn't involve, what's Sandwich going to do or whatever. This is something we have to do ourselves internally. As part of
Tom,
the
I
plan.
think what's bothering me is, and this isn't that big a figure, but I could see the figures getting bigger as we get up, is $50,000 for various consulting services. I'd like to know a little bit more about what we need for consulting before I spend my money.
Okay.
Well, it says engineering, mediation, legal, and similar services.
But there's no breakdowns, there's no anything, there's no percentages.
That's fine. I hear you, John.
Yeah, that's all.
Okay.
And I'm asking questions that you're going to get asked on the floor.
They're all good questions to ask.
Possible to answer those questions now, to give you exact percentages, because we don't know how the discussions are going to go. We don't know every case, and I'm thinking
Well,
about
let me
private
ask you a
plants.
question. Should
Every
we
case is
wait
gonna
till
be something
May
different.
before we do this?
No,
when
because
we
we're not
do
going to
it?
know. I think we can figure out a way to address your concerns so that we can continue to, moving ahead is important to us financially, to the residents of the
All
town.
right.
So let's see if we can answer the majority's questions about how this can lay out in a way that
All
gives
right.
you comfort before we say, let's just scrap it till May.
That's
And the
good.
overall point is, we'll have the plan done and approved in a month or so, and then what do? This is the next steps. We want to
All
keep
right.
moving.
Well, I think that's when we regroup and we say, okay, how do we move forward?
Well, that's right now, because we need, we can't wait until May.
I think,
That's
Tom,
half the year
I
lost.
think you can
Tom,
go
we
to
don't,
sleep feeling good tonight that we will get that final county approval on the plan.
well, the thing,
We're-
yeah,
we're-
I'm
we're
not worried
essentially-
about, I'm not
We're
worried about
essentially,
that.
we're
either.
essentially done.
We got a lot of things to get into, like, we still haven't decided. We just said no to the water district, which I went along with, but we haven't decided what mechanism we're using yet. That's a big, big discussion that's got to be had.
Who is
Whether
the
it's the
control?
sewer commission going to stay in effect and run the whole show, whether we're going to do a sewer district, I don't care, but I'd feel a lot better if I knew we weren't going to go through what we did with the water district, where one people are making the plans, the water district saying, I don't know if I'll even use them.
Right, should we have,
There's a lot of questions
You're
that
right,
coming up,
that's a
and
good
I'm
point.
not, I'm
Right
just,
now, you've got a sewer commission that's trying to move the project forward, so.
well, we have all along, and up until we found our faults of it, we thought the water district would have taken over, and God knows where we'd be at right now.
It would be further ahead if you ask me.
but they'd be,
that's-
right, well, whatever it is, but they'd be
Let's
sitting
not
there.
pick that scab,
No,
Tom.
I'm not,
Right.
I'm just, there's a lot of things. Before we start spending money, I'd like to see at least directions. To see if the town will appropriate transfer it from funds $20,000 to the sewer commission facility study account and reauthorize the said account to fund the preparation and adaptive management plan and other services required from commission's engineering consultant in conjunction with the review, approval, and implementation of the town watershed nitrogen management plan. What is that?
That is something that the commission is going to require from us, but we can't tell you exactly what they're going to require because it's going to be the result of their hearing process, the DRI process. But we know that we're going, our plan in general is an adaptive management plan, but they want much more specific information. We just don't know exactly what. But we do know that we don't have any more money to pay our consultant, and it was not anything in their contract to do that, which is we need to do to finish the approval process.
But we don't know what we're engineering. We just want money.
Just, they won't have money
It's
to,
for the adaptive
Well, if
management
if
plan,
the-
but the details of it are
When is-
going to be specified
When
by
is
the
this going to
commission.
take place? When are we going to get our approval? Approximately.
Public hearing, the DRI public
Yeah.
hearing is tentatively scheduled for the middle of September. There isn't a specific date yet.
Yeah.
Out of that process, once there's a commission decision, we are told there will be a requirement for an adaptive management plan that's more
I would guess
detailed,
in October to answer your
including
question.
monitoring and
Yeah.
all the rest. How are we
September.
going to keep track of things in order to do the adaptive management? So right now, there's no money. The SRF loan, that we applied
Yeah,
for
yeah.
15 years ago is gone. I mean, we're on fumes, and we need something to keep this is essentially finishing the approval process. We have to produce this to satisfy the the commission as part of their DRI.
Now,
But even my consultant, who I talked to this afternoon, cannot tell you exactly what it's going to involve because it hasn't been specified to us yet by the commission. But we know it's going to be there, and we need some money to pay for it.
But this is adaptive management, and my discussion with you earlier was the fact that adaptive management means that a large portion of our nitrogen management is dependent upon shellfish.
Right.
So we don't even know how that's going to pan out at this time. I think it's even 5 or
Well,
10 years before we get accurate readings.
That's exactly what adaptive management is about. We have to be prepared to adapt if it turns out the shellfish isn't working or isn't working as well as you can. And we have to be monitoring all the way along. We have to, basically be prepared. And they want more detailed information about how we're going to do this adaptation. Right now, we just say, every 5 years, we're going to look at the results and adapt our plan. But
So our plan basically says, we're going to just play numbers. We're going to take 10 pounds of nitrogen out of the Papaneset Bay using shellfish.
Yeah.
Right. Our target's 15. We're going to hit 10. And so
What do we do?
you need to have a detailed monitoring program. So let's say if you were going to get if you're just going to build a wastewater treatment plant, have a pipe at the end of the thing, you'd get as part of your permit, you got to monitor what's coming out of the end of the pipe. It's actually easy, which is why the whole system's built around pipes. Because you can see who's complying. You take a measurement, you send it to a certified lab. It's got bad stuff in the water. It doesn't have bad stuff in the water. You're good or you're not good. You do something like clams. Rick's got a decent idea exactly how it's going to work.
The numbers sound great.
The numbers sound great, but you are going to, in permitting, need a very detailed protocol. We're going to do this kind of sampling, whether it's on the clams themselves, whether it's on the sediments, whether it's upstream monitoring, it's downstream monitoring. How do you account for the tide cycles? All this stuff.
So monitoring?
We would be monitoring, and so we are going to have to come up with a detailed monitoring plan that is going to be able to demonstrate. So we go back to county and state and say, Shazam, it worked, or even better, it worked better than we thought it was going to. They've signed off on the monitoring program, so that you're not arguing about how you got the number. You can argue about the result a little bit, but you're not going to get in the situation where you go in and say, we thought we were going to get 10, we got 15, we're done. That whole $150 million sewer plant that we said, we don't need that anymore, we're good. And they're going to say, well, how did you come up with the numbers? And so what this funds, and Tom's right, we don't know exactly what the requirements are going to be because this whole shellfishing thing is an emerging science. So nobody's really sure.
We're the first ones.
But the reality is, well, there's sampling going on. Falmouth's doing a little bit.
Right, but I mean,
Wellfleet's doing a little bit.
A wastewater plan that is dependent on it.
Right, but we are really reliant on this. And so whether we do it now or whether we wait until the permit comes out and we know specifically, we're going to have to invest a little bit to be able to say, this is how we measure. This is how we're going to measure success. Have the regulatory agencies say, yeah, that's an appropriate way to do it. And then, that'll just become part of our ongoing operations.
But it says adaptive management.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And my understanding that is, so if the shellfish doesn't work as well as we anticipate, that means that we have to increase.
Do more something else.
Right, through a treatment center.
Or more clams.
Or more, well, I don't know.
I'm saying, yes,
If they're going to allow
it's
that.
a question of what's next.
Right.
Or
how do we make a plan when we don't know what's happening? I don't understand how we make a plan. And the only way you can be certain of, if you create a waste treatment plant, you know those numbers because it comes out of a pipe and you can project that.
Right.
With shellfish, I just don't know how we can even sit here and make an adaptive plan. So in 10 years down the road, when the actual numbers come out in the shellfish that we can really make a decision on, that's when we ought to make that decision and say, instead of spending $20,000 now.
I think the question is the 20,000 or whatever number it ends up being, whenever you decide to do it, whether you just do it now or you do it in May, it's the money that lets you be able to answer the question of how you're going to tell them, right? So you're going to say,
It's got to monitor it.
well, we're going to monitor and we're going to do it this way. And there are methods out there, reasonably, that provide a range of understanding. So we're going to be evaluating on a site-specific basis, based on where Rick puts cohogs in Jehu Pond. He's going to develop a little monitoring protocol that assesses where we are now and then tries to assess success. There's what's happening in this little micro location. And then there's also an evaluation of what's happening further downstream, further out in the bay. So if you see the monitoring station further down the bay, all of a sudden the water's clearer, there's more dissolved oxygen, there's less there's less algae in the water, you can say objectively, water quality is better.
It's working.
Right? Something's happening. What the plan you'd be developing to monitor what happens at the test location would be to determine whether you can take credit as a town for what's happened, and therefore, as long as you maintain what you're doing, you can make an argument, hey, guys, we're done. We don't need to build the treatment plant, right? Because we've seen better results than we expected to. The system...
Right, and hopefully that's the
case. And hopefully
that's a long way down the road.
Well, it could be 5 years down the road, it could be 10 years down the road.
I think we're way beyond what we're talking about for one article right now.
Yeah, it is. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that this is money that we'd spend now that helps us remove the uncertainty so that when we get to the adaptive point in 5 or 10 years, we're armed with the information we need to be able to say, it's because of what we did.
I guess my question is, doesn't Rick York have this information already? Because he presented this with the Shell propagation, and it makes perfect sense. Why do we have to pay $20,000 when he should have? He had those numbers far.
Tom, the purpose of this is a discussion of the thing that you can go and ask Tom.
Maybe the three of us could get together with you and I and talk to Rick.
Can I just interject that there is an and after the adaptive management plan, because it's other services required to complete the approval process. We are basically out of money to pay for GHD. We may not even be able to get to the end of the DRI process because, again, they made a proposal to us in 1999, and the costs, the money that we have is based on 1999 work.
My question is then, why isn't there an article in here for what they need?
That's what this is.
This is both, because the adaptive management plan would be
well, why
done
don't
by
we
them,
put their name in there instead of these various consultants and whatnot? So at least we know what we're finishing up.
Approval.
Yeah, let me try. I hear what you're saying. Let's try and refine the language of the article.
Is what it says. That's GHD. I mean, that's right in the article.
Well, I mean,
John, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, all right.
I hear what you're saying.
That could have been settled long ago.
And if you would like to meet with Rick, I just asked that, let me organize that and sit down with you.
Yeah.
But I'd interject.
Okay, next one. See if town appropriate and transfer available funds $20,000 sewer commission for part-time contract expense account and reauthorize the said account to fund part-time sewer commission administrative position to take any action related thereto. What is that?
Well, that's just what it says. We are basically out of money for our sewer commission administrator. And
who is that?
Paul Gobel.
That is a man that, when you were here, we voted not to fund anymore. Last year, we not voted to fund anymore. I see every time. He was hired originally, if you remember, Tom. He was put on because the water district, we needed someone to be a go-between, a liaison.
No, not for the
Oh, yes, it was. And then there was an argument, you wanted control over him, and the board gave the town manager control over him. All of a sudden, that ended somewhere.
I've never seen him.
He's never seen him.
There's no money to pay him. He comes to the sewer commission.
This is two different board of selectmen I've been on with now have voted down these funds. And he's back for more.
I don't know that we've ever even got...
Twice. Tom was on the last, first
We
one.
said no.
We said no.
And you were on last
We
year's.
said no.
And you were all upset about it.
Is that why we're out of funds with GHD engineering? Because we paid Paul with the...
No, there's no
funds?
connection. Totally different accounts. Paul is basically our
Well,
liaison
that's-
with the engineers.
We know it is.
And
We
the other
can- When we
towns.
vote, we can decide on that one.
Okay.
10, to see if,
Article 9.
I was going to say, is he essential to get this approved, the final step?
He's essential to do, unless you want me doing all of this work or Andy doing all of this work, we need somebody on the staff to do these negotiations.
no, we have to find out
Representing
who
the
is
town,
going,
the other town.
we have to find out what we're going to use for a mechanism, and we're going to have to hire a full-time person to do it. I'm sorry. It's never going to get done unless you have a full-time person.
I'm
I
not
will
sure
agree
that
with you, you're not going
at
to do
this
it on the, it's too important to do on the
Yes.
cheap,
Yes.
by the seat of your pants. That I agree with.
But at
I
this
think-
time, you don't need a full-time person.
Yeah, at this
You've
point,
got
you don't,
consultants
I
and a
don't think,
part-time
because the
person.
primary responsibility for implementation,
But-
you got two chunks of tasks right now. One is the implementation that you're doing through Rick's auspices, and that, you know, he's as or more qualified than
Big.
anybody on Cape Cod to do it.
Yep.
We just need to give him the resources to do it
Right.
and get a huge return on that. Then you've got the design engineering work to begin getting to implementation on the facilities that we know are going to be required, even with above expectation support or success on some of the other stuff. And that we can, you know, that you'll farm out. You're going to hire, you know,
Right.
engineering firms. And then the third little piece is, you know, there's a lot of legal, political agreements between our adjoining communities that we're going to have to work out, and with the private owners in town. So you got like 3 buckets, and at some point, you're going to need somebody you either need to, you know, redeploy town planner's time, given his expertise on this, and free him to work on this during his paid time for
Yeah.
the town, as opposed to doing it as a sewer commission member after 9 to 5. So we can stop doing it that way.
I think this discussion is
It's an
exactly what
important
I'm
discussion we
talking
need to
about.
have.
The discussion
Right.
is
Or we're gonna
just
have to
how
hire
we're
a
going
staff
ahead.
person to do
Yes.
I think we very quickly coming to that point where we have
I agree, and I guess what I'd ask you,
tie-ins.
I guess what I'd say is, you know, let me, as the liaison, work with the sewer commission and with the planner and the manager to develop a options discussion for how we're going to move forward, and then we can come back and talk about it. That said, I think some inversion of some of this is appropriate for October, but I've heard your concerns
Yeah.
about, you know, limiting it and having some specificity, so that we're doing the stuff we
that's
need to
all.
do now.
There's nothing in here that I
Right.
disagree
So,
with.
so we'll come back after, if it's
All right.
agreeable to everybody, we'll
Yeah.
come back and give the board some options and
No,
let
that's,
you pick a
that's
direction.
good.
Yeah, and just to be clear, on the money that's been left, Paul's been assigned to be our liaison with the other 3 towns.
Well, he's had, first of all, he's going to do the water district. It never got done. We never got a report back.
He doesn't
He
have
was-
anything to do with the water.
He was.
Never
he
did.
Tom,
was
we're
our
reaching a
man-
happy point. Let's
He was
move
our
on.
man who was going to do the base conversation.
He is doing that. He's
Well,
the one that meets
why
with
haven't we
Carter
heard
Humpton,
anything in a year and a half?
Because the base hasn't moved.
So we have had him for doing nothing for a year and a half. Don't get me
That's
started
not
on
true.
that.
But the
please.
basis, their feasibility study was due last week, I believe.
You're
And
thinking
that was
about
for the
the
tie-ins.
solid waste.
Let's not even get into that.
Let me bring this back, because
Right,
it's
okay.
getting late and people are getting frayed.
He's been
Yeah.
doing what he's been told to do with the tiny bit of money we have left. That's why he hasn't been able to do much, because
He didn't do anything to start with.
he did a lot more than you think.
The one thing I will say in closing on this, right now, our operating budget for this current fiscal year for wastewater-related activities is $136. Okay?
Yeah.
That's already been spent.
I understand that.
And it wasn't enough.
But I'm just saying, we need to do more.
Yeah, we have to sit down and
We
not
need
just
to-
throw money at
That's
it.
right.
Right.
But we need to do more than $136.
Nobody
A lot
disagrees
more.
with that.
I understand that. So let's come up with it's unfair to the rest of you to drop, you know, the way this conversation's evolved. Let us come up with a unified approach, come back to you and have a discussion about it.
I think it makes sense to consolidate this.
Right. And we're driven a little bit by the calendar here, but so let's try and split the baby and
215
do both.
waters and improvement account, new channel government. 12, to see if the town will vote appropriate transfer 20,000, am I in 12 here?
No.
No,
Nine.
11, 9.
You'd like to be at
Oh, I sure would.
You can
To
skip
see
the
if the
12.
town will vote to appropriate transfer $65,000 for Waterways Improvement Fund account to the Waterways Dredging account to cover costs associated with dredging
sit down
5,000
for a
cubic
while.
yards. This is every year this comes up, doesn't it?
Kenny Bates.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are,
Yeah.
that's the only thing in the past, that is the only money articles that ever used to be allowed on the,
Right, the only article over the next few that has changed somewhat is Article number 11. That went from 15 historically to 20. And that's just to cover the equipment and the maintenance, including all of the items listed. But I just want to caution you that that did bump from 15 to 20, which was in the plan for the past 2 to 3 years. But that number did change compared to last year, and I just want to point that out. Other than that, it's just
Same thing.
business as usual.
Right, and this is for the damage that took place for the last winter, it says, right?
And in here somewhere,
Because they felt it was underfunded.
are we going to relocate the article we put on for them last week about the power dredging?
That's in here.
Yeah,
It's not in sequence.
we should probably put it in sequence.
Yes. Oh,
Move it up.
move it up?
Yeah.
A lot of ways to set in a
Yeah, because they
cluster.
got to answer them
Get on a
all,
roll.
just out of. See if town will vote appropriate, 12.
So 13 would be the next new subject.
That would be 13, what number?
Oh, no.
You're going to have to renumber all these all the
9, 10,
ways.
11, so.
See if the town will vote to transfer $754.89 from the Riverside Road account to the Waterways Fund, or take any action thereof. This article would transfer from the Riverside Road account to
So they had extra
Waterways.
money when they did Riverside Road, and they just want to dump it in the Waterways account.
What did they do on Riverside Road?
We need an explanation, a better explanation on this.
You know, this isn't a DPW one, this is,
I'm guessing, I don't know, but I'm guessing we had we did a
It's
road
nothing.
improvement,
I thought it was like a
we did a road conversion, and there was,
emergency.
and there was
fix.
money left over.
I think it was an emergency fix. or
So the
something
actual
of the
work
road.
came in less than the
side road
appropriation.
account, but it's,
Yeah, we should get an
but
explanation.
you can't
get an
take money,
explanation.
you can't take money out of the road account.
Just
for-
add an explanation.
I'll get an explanation.
Yeah, you cannot take money out of the road account to do anything else.
Right.
I'll get an explanation.
All right.
Not if it was bonded for that purpose, but if it was just, if it was appropriation from available
Almost all
funds.
of our stuff gets bonded.
Yeah. But if it was a small project, not a conversion,
But why would the waterways get it?
Yeah, that's all.
because they just saw it and grabbed it.
Jeez.
That's why.
I'm almost sure it's a.
Otherwise, it was headed towards free cash.
Waste Commissioners lives there, I think.
To see if the, all right, there's your answer.
He knew it was coming.
Oh, that's funny. I had never seen anything like that before. To see if the town would vote appropriate transfer of $14,000 from the Waterways Improvement Fund account to the Channel Permit account to cover legal engineering expenses to include new proposed Pompanesett Approach Channel Design Permit added to the Town Comprehensive Permit, and to take any other action there too.
Isn't that a lot like Article 9?
I think
It
this is the new
references
one they
the
No,
want to do.
This is different.
It's a new dredge area.
Yeah,
So it's
that's,
not included in the current permit.
Can we put that with,
Article 10 was Pompanesett Interchannel.
I mean, just, it looks
well,
like,
these are all waterways.
Article 9 mentions the Pompanesett Approach Channel as well, mentions dredging.
Dredging.
I'd keep them separate because the earlier one is sort of a base part of your existing permit.
This is,
It would
this is,
fit
they
fund
want
your
to do a new channel.
Right.
So this is the outer channel.
This is a new dredge,
This
this
is
is
a-
a new component to the dredge program, so people could look at it and say, I don't want to do new dredging. So I would keep, if I were you, I'd keep it separate, because then you're sort of funding the existing, and then you're funding the new, and you're giving people a choice whether they want to do new rather than lumping it in with
Just
the
question
old.
people would understand, like, say, hey, didn't we
The
just talk
people
about that?
involved will know about it.
Yeah, they'll get up and say.
Would you like Mr. Bates at your next meeting?
I don't think we need them, because that's,
No.
unless you want them, John. It's,
I just,
the people that it make a difference to will know what it is.
a lot of the same words, and
To see if the town will vote to appropriate transfer pursuant to provisions MGL Chapter 44B6 to reserve FY 216 estimated community preservation revenues, the following amounts. This is
This
we
is
do
every
every
year.
year. Yep.
Okay.
Article
Can I speak
16.
to 16, 17 through 20
Go
for a
ahead.
second?
Go ahead.
This is the first shot at taking the land use hearings that we're having. We had one last month, we're having the second one tomorrow. and we had proposed putting land in several different categories. In talking about the preparation of the article with Tom Mayo, I had suggested, well, why don't we, and talking to council, should we do it as one huge article that just moves everything, all the parcels, our parcels 1 through 50 go to open space, 51 through 75 go to affordable housing, blah, 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 or should we break them up? This draft reflects breaking them up. There's no need to break them up. You could put them together. You could do them separate. It's really a matter of your preference. I mean, I think my intention is we're going to hold this hearing tomorrow. Tom and I are going to attend it. We'll get more feedback. Tom joined us at the last one we had. I'm expecting a similar type
When
event.
are you planning to come back to the board to discuss
At our next
what
meeting.
you...
Our next meeting. And at that point, and what my intention would be is to say, here's what we propose to do, here's what we heard, here are our recommended changes, and if you want to proceed, then these would be the articles to implement it in October. Or you could, article or articles, you could go 16, you could consolidate it all into one, or you could keep them as separate articles. I'm ambivalent about whether you do it.
Not me.
How would you prefer?
All at once.
Fine. I have no, that's fine.
All one or none.
That's fine. I have no issue with
That's
that.
the original plan.
proposed.
It was.
Like I said, we were just for,
Is there a way to protect ourselves if you go all for one, that you can't have someone amend the shit out of it?
Well, because that's what's going
Well,
to happen.
that's
As
going to be,
written.
Is there a way?
As written.
As written.
well, that's a question.
That's a question for Pat Costello.
Otherwise, you withdraw it, and then you bring it back in next town meeting.
Okay, what do you want town council to answer?
We're going to make this all one master plan
Okay,
article.
that I
no
understand.
problem with that.
But we want to, is as written, we don't want someone at town, this person at town floor pulling out a little street. We don't want this one pulling out a little street.
Because
I
that's
think
what
what
happened.
you'd have to do procedurally, I mean,
We'll find out from the lawyer next time.
Right.
next-
Yeah.
Very good.
You might not be able to do
I
it.
don't think you can preclude someone from making a motion. You'd have to defeat it on the
I
floor.
don't know. I don't know.
I just have a question, though, because, so I'm assuming the reasons for having these meetings, like tomorrow evening, is for someone to have a question about a
Yes.
piece of property.
Or their opinion.
Yeah, so are those properties that they want to discuss or they're concerned with, if some people voice their opinions, are those being pulled off the warrant?
They're not necessarily being pulled off. What we're going to do, what you'll get before the next meeting, is a memo. We'll reconvene the working group
Okay.
that we use with.
Who's in the working group?
Well, the original 5 was me, Tom, Vidala, Tom, Mayo, Mike Richardson, and Joyce Mason.
And who is it now?
Well,
2 of them are missing, so you just...
Well,
you
Can we-
could take the 3 of us, you could take the 3 surviving members of this effort, or you could choose to add a couple, you could have,
We add,
and take another member of the board, and we would, convene, talk about what we heard, and make a recommendation that would change or not. Just because, let me put it this way. Some people came to the meeting and said, I don't like what you're doing, proposing to do with the
got
lot
calls
across
today.
the street
I got
from me.
I got calls today.
There were butters. I wanted to buy that, so
Yes.
why is it going, yeah, I know your neighbors, I know.
No, not just there.
I know, but I got a lot from your neighborhood at the last meeting.
letter just today.
I was hoping to
I did
consolidate those
too.
4
I did
lots
too.
and build a garage. I really don't want you to make that a
Yeah.
parkland, to have access to town property on the
Yeah.
water for shell fishing. Now, my own view, I listened to that, and I'm going to give you guys a written summary that says, we propose to put this property in public as a park, or for parking purposes. And a butter came to us and said, I'd prefer you put it up for sale. And I think the group will make a recommendation to the board to say, it ought to end up here, or it ought to end up there. I've heard people come and say, why did this land end up this way? And I don't think I think we made a mistake. So in certain instances, we're going to say, based on what we heard at the meeting, instead of being X, it should be Y. And so we come back to you and say, here's a proposal. Does that mean that everyone who came to one of these meetings or gave us a comment
I get the way.
is going to get their way and be happy and therefore
Oh,
not go to
kind
town
of.
meeting and say, it shouldn't be this way? No, it doesn't. What I think what we'll have accomplished with these meetings is having given people a chance to come and look, understand what we're proposing to do, get some input. Some people will get the changes they ask for, some won't. And I think it puts us in a very good position when we go to town meeting to say, we held some public hearings, we incorporated, these are the things we incorporated. If somebody wants to get on town meeting floor and argue why nothing should happen and the article should be defeated because they don't like what's happening in their neighborhood, if they can prevail at town meeting, then they can prevail at town meeting.
But like you just said earlier, you can't stop a person from making a motion.
Motion.
If
No.
they want to pick it apart piece
We
by
don't
piece.
know. That's what we're going to find
Yeah, I
out.
don't think you can, but I think we're in a very good position, Tom, in going to town meeting and saying, rather than get piecemealed, rather than do 277 separate articles, so that people can go.
Oh, without
Right.
a doubt.
No, I
That's
agree.
why I want it
Yeah.
all in one, not.
I'm agreeing with what you're suggesting. I think we would do very well at town meeting saying, we did a comprehensive look at this, we didn't make everybody happy, but
And at that point, I'd say.
there's a couple of people who don't like where the
Yeah.
third of an acre across the
agree
street
with
from
you.
them is
Okay.
going. I think town meeting would go with us.
At that point, I think you make the statement saying that exactly what you just said, and would like to vote this.
All or nothing.
All or nothing.
All or nothing.
So I would argue, though, looking if you're looking at all these parcels, and if there is, say, 15 that are under discussion.
This is not new, by the way. This has been tried about
Absolutely.
5 or 6
Well,
times.
I mean, this has been talked about after many
6
years,
I've been here
basically.
since.
So we're finally at this point, I think we're going to be much better off, even if we took off 90% of these properties and put them in a rightful home, if you will. My question would be is if there's 10 or 15 properties that are questionable, take those off the article, leave them still under discussion.
Well, the place they would go, John, is there's a reserve category.
Yeah.
Right.
And the reserve category serves a multitude of purposes.
I agree.
Some of it's the nitrogen offsets for affordable housing. Some of it is land where there's a title or a question about, we're really not sure. Or they're properties where they're bigger and we have multiple potential uses and we're not ready. So rather than move them out, you just put them in this reserve category, which is reserved for later.
Right, and that's
Discussed another day.
That's exactly my point, but in addition to that, my problem is, specifically like conservation. If we put it on the article to go to conservation,
It's there forever.
it's going, and it's pretty much staying there forever.
Ever.
Yep.
So there's no coming back. So I
That's
just
why
don't
it's
want to
too
have any
important.
mistakes
Right.
with what we put into, specifically into conservation. Pulling it out of conservation is,
I like the idea of having your next thing and then sit down. And
yeah, so that.
So does somebody else want to join us in this
Well, my
group?
only problem with that is, and I don't care, is
You have a,
they weren't at these meetings.
There was only one.
right. I mean, I don't mind being on board, but
Is someone going to sit through?
I mean,
I don't care myself.
in all fairness, I actually don't think another member from the board would have a difficulty catching up.
Yeah.
Tom wrote up his notes. I mean, basically, the way you saw it, we split it up with the whole thing, the map and the list on 2 tables.
All right.
And some people went and talked to him about it, and some people went and talked to me about it. I took some notes. He took some notes. We've both written them up. So it's, 4 or 5 parcels. This is who came and said, I have a concern. This is what their concern was. What do we want to do as a group?
Who wants to be on the board now?
well, I did go to the meeting because I wanted to see what the public reaction was and what the, so,
Are you going to be able to go to the second one?
It's tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night.
no, I can't. I gotta take my son to the airport.
John, do you want to
So
be on the board?
well, I mean, at worst case, it's tomorrow. I mean, I think I can make
You're
tomorrow.
not
night.
on it already, right?
Huh?
No, it was me and Mike.
I had another meeting, so I couldn't make the lecture.
I'm happy to sit down with any one of the 4 of you after we do this.
It doesn't really,
Yeah.
I just think for the sake of tomorrow night's meeting, just to have
Someone there.
someone else
Yeah.
there.
Why don't you come?
Do you
So I'm
want to
gonna
be
try
on
come.
it?
That's-
I can't, not tomorrow night.
John, it looks like you.
Yeah.
Right, so I'm going to try to come tomorrow night.
Yeah.
All right.
And then, why don't,
Yeah, I'll catch up.
I'll share my
I mean, I'll
notes
touch
with, we'll
base.
share our notes.
Now,
and
did
we'll-
you keep a list of the people that did come?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
You said something along the way there, and it rang, and I forgot about this a long time ago. Offset mitigation. We're throwing all this land into conservation, which I have no problem with protecting land. But if we could use that land to make money off it,
He's got
and sell
land
some of
reserved
it
for
for
that.
offsetting mitigation, what's the problem with that?
Well, the nitrogen credits you get credit for, if you're doing affordable housing and have density that exceeds your nitrogen loading, you need to offset it by having other land undeveloped.
Correct. And if you own a 3-bedroom home and you'd like to put a 4th bedroom in there, you may not have enough land, so maybe you could purchase offsetting mitigation that the town would own, and we can make money off of that. It's not a bad way.
I see what you're saying.
And
Why
not
not make
selling.
money with it?
Right.
It's still protected
Exactly.
land.
It's kind of like a nitrogen trading system.
Exactly.
We could look at that.
Protecting the land.
We could look, but we have to have it to be able to
But
be
it's
able
a
to.
source of income.
Understood, but we have,
Yeah.
but right now, the only place we've done nitrogen credit offsets is on affordable housing, where we've determined there's a public purpose.
But this happened in the past with individual homes
Yeah,
and
that's a-
property.
Yeah, maybe.
Not
Anyway,
with
I'm just
not
saying.
with town land.
Conservation, we
Not
can-
with town land.
Well,
you can't.
town of Mashpee
my
Commons
concern.
did it with up at the Children's Museum up in that area there. Didn't they put that
They
land?
haven't done that yet.
We did.
Oh, they have. They're doing it.
Actually-
Right.
But
Yeah, people
Hasn't
have,
it-
I mean, that's the whole open space incentive process that you work with on
I'm
the
just
planning board.
looking-
Yes, people put land aside so that they can transfer development
You
rights
can put it in
over.
reserves instead of conservation. It's under our direction. If it's in reserves, we control it. It's theoretically it's conservation, but we can sell the rights for nitrogen, and we make money
Makes
off
sense.
of that.
Makes
Not a bad
sense.
deal.
There are large chunks of that conservation land that is cluster subdivision or condominium open space that can't be developed and doesn't have any rights to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of, it's interesting, when you look at the,
So we can't sell
Looking
mitigate
at it.
offsite.
well, we already
mitigation?
gave,
The rights have already been used
somebody already got a benefit from it.
all of it.
Yeah.
on cluster
Yeah, I
open
mean, one of the
space,
tricks that people are playing is if they had open space as part of their subdivision plan, and so they got density credits by consolidating,
Then
they
they
stopped
did.
paying taxes on the open space.
Yeah.
That's how we got the
Oh,
land.
we need to tighten that loophole.
Well, but that, a lot of the list is that.
Yeah.
And so if you were to flip it for another purpose, you're giving away a second public benefit because the developer already benefited from the increased density that they got by setting that land aside.
But
So.
if we put it into conservation, we get no benefit out of it, other than there's conservation.
Well, but it was already contemplated as being left aside because people got development credit for it. You can't give them
You
two
can't
bites
sell
at the
the
apple.
mitigation off what?
Are we all
already
done with,
mitigated.
we all done with this? You're gonna be there tomorrow night.
Right.
We know we're gonna make
And
it
let's,
one
Tom, let's you and I
article.
talk once we compile the list.
Okay. Now, Article 22 is zoning bylaws. I think just suggest that we read them if you have a question when,
Oh, my God, you're
Thanks.
gonna,
I'm
yeah,
not
let's,
gonna
Quite a
read
few
this.
pages.
Oh, there's a short one,
One.
which is making a minor change where there's a conflict between the land space requirement table and the commercial center bylaw, where the planning board, no, take that back, the assisted living bylaw, which includes hotels, motels, assisted living.
We're not
facilities.
voting in this tonight, so make the.
Right, well, the
and the
simple thing is,
second-
there's a conflict, which under one section, the planning board could waive this 50-foot buffer from, in this case, Great Neck Road South, which is
Yeah.
brought this light, and the other case, we can't.
I assume you wrote it.
Variance. Right, I wrote the article to clean that up, so the planning board could, by a 4/5 vote,
Yeah.
waive the 50-foot buffer
right,
from
that makes sense.
Great Neck Road South.
So
That's the short article.
make sure the clerk's, the selectman's office, we'll be voting, next time we see this, we'll be voting on it. So make sure you have your change in it. And I imagine it'll be draft number 2.
Draft number
I'd
2?
like to see that as written, currently written, and then the amended phrase or wording, and the reason for it. So an explanation, so we can look at as it's
What it
written
was,
now,
and
and
then
then
what
what
we're
the
changing.
amended
I agree.
subsection is.
So you want a red line strikeout
Yeah.
version?
Right.
Yeah, so you can see what it is before and after.
Well, again, the explanation of the article, which is much longer than the article, I think I'm pretty clear about what it's doing.
Who's taking care of that? Is Tom
I
taking care
I
of
can
it?
do that. I've done that, by the way. I worked late today, and I did the markup for the
Hand 'em
big
out?
articles, so you can see what the changes
All
are.
right,
and
just
I've
let's
got it
have
here
it.
for
Just as
you.
long as we can see the changes.
Yeah, obviously, you're not going to read them tonight because it's 24 pages,
No.
but
No, but.
I might.
I'd like to hand them out at least for that article. I don't know, I must have an older version.
You
of
can't
this
send
one.
them to us electronically?
I can, but it's a mess. Even this is a mess. I can't figure out how.
Well, I
to get
don't mean right now. I mean when you have it.
Well, whatever, I printed them out, so if you want to
You
read them,
printed.
fine.
Give one to Sam, he'll read it tonight.
Yeah. Do you mind if I?
You could scan them.
I look
On
at it.
the warrant I have, this is the one after the short one. It's the long one from the
Yep.
planning board.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't have any philosophical problem with the explanations in the bylaws, but
When's your next meeting, the 9th?
the 9th,
Okay.
we're voting on this warrant the 9th.
I mean, it's the planning board's decision, it's their wording, but it just makes it easier for me if I could see it.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, I see. Okay.
But the AC went off on this building a while
It was
ago.
never on.
Oh, my God.
So this will be the one in draft 2.
No, this is a markup of the existing zoning bylaw showing you where the little changes are that are in the article.
Oh, okay.
Because the article is hard to understand, because it's like,
All
you
right.
know, replace this word with this other word, and what is
All right.
that?
We don't know
This
how
is
it
just for
applies
you to
to the
understand
meaning
what
of the
that
sentence.
means.
Right.
Right.
I mean, unfortunately, this is a very long bylaw section to begin with. Andy remembers back in 1987, how complicated it was to get it through town meeting as being as extensive as it was. But this is the first time we tried to bring it up to date, and it involves a lot of the same word being changed in a lot of different places and a few other items. So we take a look at that.
Who's going to actually read that?
Who's reading the warrant with me?
No, I made copies of it.
Okay.
It's just.
This is your article, Carol.
No, what we do is.
As long as.
Oh, my
All
God.
right,
We know how to
You
do
can't do
it.
Jerry's,
Article
dispense
20.
with the reading of the article.
Article 26 is a petition, Article 27 is a
the
petition.
Yeah.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
John, I thought there was an article from the Zoning Board of Appeals that's in the draft that I got, a zoning article.
Did I miss one?
23, I think yeah.
We also skipped over 24, which is
Yeah,
submitted by the
24,
clerk.
the town clerk.
Oh,
On the
I'm
voting.
sorry. I missed the whole page here then.
On the date of the election.
Yeah, we got it.
Yeah, it's Article
See,
23. 23 is the one Tom was referring to.
All right, Tom.
Well, it's not my articles, and I don't quite understand why it's here, but
To see if the town will vote amend zoning bylaws as follows.
it's for
Yeah,
some
and
reason saying there's only going to be one address for the building and electrical electrical and gas meter. Why the ZBA wanted to do that within a accessory apartment, I don't know. I can't tell you.
Well,
I
let's have
can't tell you
the,
that it also, in the same article,
let's have the
changes the
building
sign
commissioner
bylaw.
in to explain it.
Different things.
You want Furbishin or just the building commissioner?
Well, either
Whoever.
one. The
Have them
building
figure out.
commissioner's one, I'm sure has the answers, but
Okay.
either one's fine.
I
Just
just want to
somebody
point
can
out
answer the
that
question.
Number 23.
The second part of it, relative to the sign bylaw, has an internal inconsistency. It just doesn't make sense.
We're bringing them in to find out what.
Yep.
Well,
You guys can hammer it
I'm
out.
telling you, they've...
Got it.
Meanwhile, you should talk to him first.
Well, I wish they had talked to me, but they're in one place saying 10% of the front wall is what they're making new here, and then down below, which is the current regulation, is 5%.
You're talking Chinese to us,
So,
so.
no, but they're
Well, the size
increasing
of
the
the
amount of signs.
sign,
that's
they're
on the
doubling the
building.
size of signs that can be on the front of a building.
Right, they're increasing by 100%.
But in the article, it does that in one place, and in the other place, it leaves it at 5%. So it's got both 10
Yeah,
and 5.
put your heads
in the
together
same
and fix it.
article. It's
CBA's meeting Wednesday
internally
too, right?
inconsistent, as I said.
Would it- is
Okay, Article 24, see if the town will vote amend Article 1, Section
So-
2-1F of the Greater Bylaws to read, "The regular annual," this is important, people, listen to this one, "The regular annual town election of town offices will be held on the third Tuesday in May at such places determined by the selectmen."
Instead of on a
that Super
Saturday.
Tuesday.
Instead of Saturday.
Saturday.
She
I think
wants-
it's a good idea.
She wants to try it.
I have no problem with that. I think that, and what I'd love to see is for all the towns on the Cape to have
Oh, yeah,
elections
that's,
on Tuesday.
yeah,
Everybody.
but it's not gonna happen.
No, not immediately.
No.
I guess we can put it up to, let the
Put up to
people
the voters,
decide.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
They're the ones that are going to vote.
yep, all right.
Can I,
25,
we already voted to put 25 on, or to include it in the draft last meeting.
Yeah.
My only question is, it says this offense may be subject to a $100 fine. Should that may be a shall?
The offense may be subject to.
I'll have to check the language.
I mean, I think, to me, you want a black and white. You violate the rule, this is a fine, as opposed to
I think that's
putting the
right.
officer or the harbor master in a position of having to.
I had somebody question me on this, and they said that when you build the new boat landings, when they're built correctly now, this eliminates any sculling that would take place due to power loading, because it goes much
The
deeper.
pad's longer.
I mean, is that correct? I mean, I'm not.
It corrects it, but you still have
Eliminates the
cowboys.
so-called hole.
Right,
Yeah.
right, because it just extends further.
Yeah, but
than
you still have
power up.
cowboys. That's what it comes
But
down
we're
to.
not putting any, I mean, other than Great Neck
Yeah.
Well,
Landing,
Aquay's probably gonna need
Yeah.
some modification very soon, and I don't know about the lakes.
Pirates Cove, I think, has got a problem there, too.
I mean, we could always come back, if we, my suggestion would be if we redesign
Yeah.
and eliminate, design it so it can be power loaded, let's go back and amend the bylaw to say, except that it's legal, just to
Right, if
specify which ones.
Right, if the ramp allows for that to happen. I
Knock
mean,
yourself up.
right. I guess a lot of people that talk to me, they said to me, it's part of putting it on the trail to an extent, Well, it depends how big your boat is.
Buy power
You know?
winch.
If you get a rowboat, it's easy to,
As I
You can buy
said,
a power winch.
There's a lot
Plug it into
of,
the-
there's a lot of cowboys there.
right, right. And I don't,
Yeah.
told my,
I make a motion to adjourn.
second.
All those in favor?
Wait.
Oh, we got liaison report?
Liaison
I'm
report.
starting to melt.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's just a real quick one as far as the school committee.
Yeah,
Really exciting time. All the kids are getting the Chromebooks. So, in fact, I think it was this past weekend they were getting all assigned. On top of that, the school got an MTSS $140,000 grant for to support special education.
Oh, does that go in their budget?
So, and it was a presentation and the whole thing at the school committee. Well done. That's about it. So again, I think everyone's pretty excited about working with the Chromebooks and
any other liaison reports? I will entertain the motion to adjourn then.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
yes.
Yes.
Yes.